everyone, Ariana here, founder of the 5D Business Collective. Currently driving through a tunnel, hence the weird lighting in here. But I wanted to jump on and do one of our 3D business bites. Wow, it got really dark. I really wanted to be in integrity with my commitment to doing an episode of 3D business bites every week. And things just kind of got away from me this week. And so that's why I'm doing this in the car as I drive to my family's to go eat some turkey. And don't worry, I'm not driving. My partner's driving. And we're here with little Luna. But today I wanted to talk about websites. And this is a really important thing to talk about because so many of my clients get stumped on actually stepping forward and making moves in their business because they feel like they need to have a website. They think that they can't get started and actually start promoting their stuff unless they have a website. So today what we're going to talk about are some different website platforms you can use, whether you actually even need a website or not, and some alternatives if you opt to not have one, and then some things to consider with your website like hosting, privacy protection, stuff like that. So what is it about websites? Now, websites are kind of like, they are important because they kind of act as like the hub of your business. And, we even saw earlier this week with Instagram and Facebook going down that social media is not guaranteed. With social media platforms, you don't own anything that's on there. Mr. Z could come on tomorrow and say, hey, you have to pay from now on if you want to use these platforms, and he could just remove you if you opt to not pay. He probably wouldn't do that, but he could. And then you would lose everyone who you've got in your community, all of your content, everything like that. Websites also, they're not fail-proof. Websites, your hosting server can go down. I'm on Kajabi for our 5D Business Collective website, and tomorrow Kajabi could just shut down and I would lose it. But they tend to be less risky than social media platforms. So it is really advantageous to have your own platform where you are directing people back to. But that being said, there are a lot of cons that come with a business or a website as well. Folks can get really, really tripped up on thinking that it needs to be perfect before they can launch their business. And let me tell you, I've had a website for over 8 years now, and it's only been within the last 10 months where I've actually been happy with my website. They are constantly a work in progress. There are always things for you to nitpick about. And if we believe that we can't actually launch our businesses until we have our website perfect, we're going to be not helping a lot of the people who need us to help them for a really, really long time. So that's just kind of what I want to say about that. But let's say you do decide that you want to have a business. What are the different platforms that you can use? There's probably a lot more than what I'm familiar with, but some of the ones that come to mind are WordPress, Squarespace, Wix, Weebly. You can build a website on GoDaddy, and then we have our online course platforms like Kajabi, Thinkific, and Teachable. I would say that WordPress and Squarespace are probably among the most commonly used. WordPress is, it's a lot more technical. So it's not impossible. There's a tutorial on everything for WordPress on YouTube pretty much, but it does take some technical know-how if you want to build a website that looks good and works well. You can build a website that is hosted on WordPress.com, and that's kind of your free blog platform, things like that. But if you want to be selling something, you actually need to have a WordPress.org website, and that requires you to have your own hosting server, to build out your own template and things like that. A lot of people don't actually know that with WordPress.com you can't be selling stuff. It's really just to be used as a free website platform. Squarespace is also really popular. I love Squarespace. I just switched over to it last December for my own arianafotonakis.com website. I bought a template, I customized it to meet my branding, and I absolutely love it. You can use the templates that are on Squarespace, drag and drop, super user-friendly. A lot of the websites that you visit probably are hosted on Squarespace. And I'm not too familiar with a lot of the other ones. I have heard that Wix has really improved its user experience. Weebly, I think, is still kind of crappy. GoDaddy, I know absolutely nothing about. But those are the platforms that you could use if you opt to build a website. Now, what if you don't want a website? What if it feels like too much work? If you are not ready for the commitment, amazing. You don't have to build a website. If you are someone who's active on social media, you could simply use social media as your main hub. There are so many different ways to strategically use Instagram for it to essentially act as your website. Court, who does our social media here on 5D, if you go look at her Bravely Beautiful brand Instagram handle, so at Bravely Beautiful brand, I really love how she has used Canva to essentially act as website pages. So if you go to her link tree, which is the link in her bio, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. She's created beautiful slides in Canva that match her branding. You can get a shareable link when you create it in Canva. You can link to other slides. So it is a really, really great alternative to folks who aren't yet ready for the commitment of a website. You can also create a simple PDF that acts as like a rate sheet. So if you're providing, say, like intuitive services or consulting services or things like that, you can create a really nice PDF that outlines your different packages. And anytime a potential client asks about working with you, you can just send that to them. And you can just straight up post about stuff on your social media. I know a lot of folks who just promote things in their stories, they use their feed, everything is done through the DMs, and they just send PayPal links. So that is also an option. If you do opt to go for a website, some of the things that you're going to need to consider, in addition to like actually deciding what platform you're going to use, is hosting. So when I was on WordPress, I had to pay for an additional hosting server. I used A2 hosting. It's not very well known, but there are things like Bluehost, GoDaddy, things like that. So you need to think about, where am I going to host my site? Squarespace, your hosting is included, so that's not something that you need to consider. You also need to buy your domain. So are you going to have your website be your name? Is it your brand name? Is it going to be something else? What are you going to name your site, and is that domain name available? I buy all my domains from GoDaddy. I like to joke that I collect domain names. If you look at my GoDaddy account, the number of domain names I have is a little bit ridiculous. But I like to buy different versions. So I have arianafotonakis.com, arianafotonakis.ca. We have the 5dbusinesscollective.co. I have 5dbusinessschool.com. I have 5dbusinessacademy.com. I like to look ahead at things that I might potentially want to do, and then I will go and purchase the domain names that may allow me to do that. And oftentimes, the iterations of your domain name that you're buying aren't that expensive. My domain names, the main ones that I use, are about $48 to $58 a year, and some of my other ones are like $15 a year, so it's not that expensive. So where are you going to get your domain name? What are you going to name your website? Other things you need to consider are like privacy protection, SSL certificates. Your SSL certificate is the thing that differentiates your website from being an http:// to https://. HTTPS shows visitors that you have this SSL certificate, which is essentially like an additional layer of security. And this is really great for folks who are going to be entering credit card details on your website, signing up for things, filling out forms. If you don't have that SSL certificate, Google will actually notify visitors of your website that they're visiting an unsafe site. So really, really important that you get that. Again, some of your website platforms might include it. I believe Squarespace does. But when I was hosted on WordPress.org, I had to buy an additional SSL certificate to have with my hosting platform. It sounds like a lot, but all you really need to think of is like, is my hosting included with my website platform, and is my SSL certificate included? And if not, there are things like you can buy them usually from your host. And I think that's all I want to cover. So we've gone over like, do you need a website? Maybe, maybe not. Things to consider around that. Different website platforms you can use, alternatives to websites, and some of the more technical kind of sides of things like domains and SSL certificates. So that's all I've got today, my friends. Baby's getting upset, so I'm going to go tend to her. Remember, if there's something that you're wondering about on the business front, just send us a DM and I will be sure to answer it. Okay, my friends. Let's see. Let's end that.